It's time to break down the Bruins. The Gophers' next opponent isn't going to be a cakewalk. They have faced a difficult schedule, but we'll break down why Minnesota can make it more difficult this weekend.
You are Locked On Golden Gophers, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Gopher fans? You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Today, we're going to talk about the strengths, the weaknesses, and the make or break for this UCLA versus Gophers matchup in the Rose Bowl Stadium. The Gophers are on the road in LA, and can they make it back-to-back wins? That's what we've got our fingers crossed for. We're going to break down what to keep in mind with this UCLA team, why Minnesota could give them some struggles, and then we're going to talk about three players Minnesota has to slow down and my biggest concerns for this matchup. So be sure to sit back, relax, enjoy, drop your thoughts and comments in the comments section over on YouTube. Be sure to leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. You can find us at Locked On Golden Gophers, and let's do this thing. So I appreciate y'all for listening and tapping in each and every day, and let's talk about UCLA. Now, when we were talking about the UCLA Bruins, look, heading into the season, I was very, very clear that I thought UCLA was going to struggle. I thought they were going to have one of the worst records in the Big Ten. I thought they were going to have a very hard transition, and that is how it's looking so far. Now, that said, they've played a difficult schedule so far, but this team does not look like a team that's going to be getting out of the slump anytime soon. Now, I had mentioned heading into this year, they could be bottom of the Big Ten, and they were my pick to finish last in the conference. Well, halfway through the season, UCLA and Purdue are fighting for that title, that crown that nobody wants at the bottom of the Big Ten. Now, UCLA is absolutely feeling the growing pains of this Big Ten transition, and I don't foresee it lightening up by any means. Maybe they can get another win or two this season, but I think overall it's going to be a difficult year with a coach who looks a little bit over his head when it comes to a Big Ten program and not having much head coaching experience at all. And then this team just doesn't have things clicking together. Now, that being said, this is not a team Minnesota should feel like they can sleep on or assume that they're going to get the dub. Minnesota has been known to lose those should-win games, and this is definitely one that falls into that category. So this is a road game for Minnesota, but it isn't necessarily a hostile environment, though I believe it is their biggest road trip, and LA can have its distractions. So the Gophers will have to be locked in and keep the momentum going from last week and even the back half of the Michigan week in order to hopefully have a runaway win and really build momentum heading into the bye week. Now, Minnesota is coming off a big win against USC, and so hopefully they aren't over celebrating. Hopefully they aren't still living in the past. You need to turn the page. You need to move on to the UCLA season, as PJ Fleck likes to call it, and try to go 1-0. So don't get caught rusty. Don't get caught lacking on the road, but come full force, ready to go. Now, when you're looking at this UCLA Bruins football team, their strengths are that they have an extremely experienced offensive coordinator. That being said, this offense has not looked good. I don't know if it's a personnel issue. I don't know if it's just too much drinking from a water hose type issue, and there's too much information, and they just haven't been able to digest the offense and what have you, or what. But the offensive coordinator himself is Eric Bieniemy, so he has had tons of success in the NFL with the Washington Commanders, with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's had success at the collegiate level with Colorado prior to as well. So we will see if that starts to improve as this back half of the year goes on. But overall, they have a very experienced offensive coordinator. On top of that, they had a really strong running back room heading into the season. TJ Harden is a guy that people looked at as a very talented running back, but he only has 150 rushing yards on the season so far on 48 attempts, and the next man up has 98. So overall, their running back room hasn't really been great. In fact, it's one of the worst in the entire conference. And when I say one of the worst, I actually mean it's the worst in the entire conference. So the running back room hasn't played as a strength as much, but they do have the talent within the room. So I don't know really what's going on there. It could be the offensive line issues, but overall, the running backs have some talent in that room. Now, J. Michael Sturdivant was a name that people were very excited to have back. He has not really been doing much from what I could tell on the quick box score charts I was looking at. I haven't caught too many UCLA games. That being said, J. Michael Sturdivant, Logan Loya. They have a receiver who transferred in from Notre Dame. So they have some talent at the receiver position. But again, it just doesn't seem like anything on the offense is clicking. Now, when you're talking about weaknesses of this UCLA team, there's a whole lot to talk about. You're talking about a piecemeal defense that is still trying to put things together. They are terrible as a pass defense. And there is a semi-question mark on the defensive coordinator as a whole. They lost their defensive coordinator from last year. He heads across town to the rivals with USC, and that USC defense has been improved, not to the level we saw with UCLA the year prior, but this new defensive coordinator has not had this defense looking like something to write home about. On top of that, you have a head coach with zero head coaching experience or even coordinating experience, and it is showing full force in this schedule that UCLA has had. Now, they've played a very difficult schedule. We'll get into who those opponents have been, but overall, the head coach has not done much to help. He is more of a motivator coach rather than an X's and O's coach, and that is really showing itself because they really need the X's and O's right now. And I don't know how much motivating is going on in LA. And then lastly, you have a weakness of the quarterback play, especially when Garber was the starter. Now, I had mentioned I thought he was way overrated. He comes in the season 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He doesn't play last game because he was injured. Justin Martin comes in. I told you I was a bigger fan of Justin Martin, and he actually looked decent against Penn State. So that's probably who the Gophers are going to have to face, and you cannot take him lightly. Now, my top 3 make or breaks for this matchup are the following. First, ground and pound, and you're not going to want to ground and pound as much against this UCLA team because that is the one thing that they have going for them right now is they are a top 25 defense against the run. And like I said, they've played some tough opponents. So overall, they're pretty decent at stopping the run. So you're going to have to attack through the air, even if it means passing to open up the run game. But this is going to be a big Brosmer game. And I think this is where you have to let him cook, let him be efficient, and get him going early. So that's going to be a key in this one. Another one is to change the picture on the quarterback and really test him. Make sure that you can create chaos and keep them uncomfortable and on their heels when it comes to trying to read this defense that should be flying around, should be fast, and should be hopefully creating more turnovers. The Gophers have 10 interceptions on the season, and I believe that is the most in the Big Ten right now. So right now, you want to keep on going with that momentum, and you should have opportunities against these quarterbacks. And then finally, you got to stop the run. Because I think overall that has been the issue for Minnesota. The run defense has been abysmal, but you're taking on the worst rush defense in the entire conference. So this is a time to get it right. This is a time to capitalize, fix your issues, and hopefully start to piece things together and supplant that issue that has been shooting yourself in the foot or keeping other teams in games. If you can fix that issue in this game and have it stick for the long term, that could be the saving grace for this football season. So stop the run, change the picture on their quarterback, and then let Max Brosmer cook and get into a rhythm early. Now, offensively, when you're looking at this UCLA team, the team is struggling. Like I said, they only have one player with a grade above a 69 on PFF. That's Logan Loya, and I believe he's at a 70.3. So it's not amazing in its own right. But for reference, the Gophers offense, which has been about middle of the pack in the country in both facets right now, has 7 players in the 70s and 3 players in the 80s. So that tells you how poor this UCLA offense has been. Now, the Gophers' Achilles heel this year has been not being able to stop the run. You know that. I know that. Every team out there in the country knows that. But this is the worst rushing team in the conference. I've mentioned that a couple times. But not only that, they are 127th in the country in total offense, and they are 131st of 134 teams in rushing offense. So they are literally a bottom 4 team when it comes to running the football. That is something the Gophers should be licking their chops about. Now, their offense pass-wise is 95th in the country, so just inside the top 100, but the Gophers are the number one pass defense in the country. So the Gophers should be able to dominate this game defensively, and it should not be any type of game that Minnesota should let UCLA have a chance in heck of sniffing a win. The Gophers defense alone should put this one in the win category, but hopefully you can keep on building momentum offensively to really help yourself into the bye week and then finishing strong beyond that. So overall, I don't think that it gets better on the defensive side of the ball for UCLA. Like I said, they're 25th in run defense, which is good and all, but it doesn't do well when they are the opposite of that in the pass game, where their pass defense is 124th in the country. So again, this is one where you can expect a healthy dose of Max Brosmer, allowing him to cook, allowing him to get in a rhythm, allowing him to pass the ball around the yard, whether it be to tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, you name it. There should be at least 5 Gophers with like 50 plus yards receiving in this matchup. Now, once again, I do not want to count this team out because, like I said, they've played a tough schedule. So it's not like they've lost to crappy teams. They have had a massively difficult schedule with their losses coming to LSU, Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana. Every single one of those teams I just listed is currently ranked right now. So they've lost to 4 ranked teams in the country. So they could think that this is a game they can storm back, win, and gain some momentum. The only game win they have on the season is Hawaii, and they didn't look great in that game either. So we'll see if the Gophers can really lay their foot on the gas and put this one away, or if it is going to be a battle throughout the night. But next, we're going to talk about 3 players Minnesota is going to have to slow down in order to dominate this one. That's what's coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at FanDuel, because right now it's the start of the NFL season. We're about week 5 going into week 6, I believe. And it's time for you to get a big return with our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And they are #1 sportsbook because they have the best deals for you. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view a live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets. And on top of that, if you get started now, you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. So all you got to do is take a $5 bet shot on something. You name it, you pick it, the next coach fired, who's going to win the Heisman, an NFL game, or more, and you will get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Win or lose, $200 will be credited to your account. So definitely get in on the action with America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com, and go visit it today. FanDuel, official sportsbook of Locked On. All right, Gophers fans, remember to follow Locked On Minnesota Sports, because after every Gopher game, we jump live into a postcast to give you immediate thoughts, immediate feedback, and go over what we just saw. And we did that right after the USC game, the Michigan game. Every game we've done this season, we have had you covered. So be sure to follow Locked On Minnesota Sports so you can check that out live streaming on YouTube after every game. Now, we're going to dive into 3 players the Gophers have to slow down in this UCLA matchup. The first one for me is Bryan Addison. He is a cornerback for the UCLA Bruins. Now, if you're going to attack this team through the air, then you need to be aware of where Addison is on the field. He has 24 tackles on the season, a pass breakup, a fumble recovery, and a 96-yard pick 6. So he is one of the Bruins' key defenders. He has also played the most snaps on the defense. He is the highest graded starter on the defense, and he's a clean tackler with an 82.1 grade in the tackling area, but he has allowed 102 yards in coverage so far this season. So he's someone that you can still complete the ball in his area and on the way for him. But overall, you need to be aware of where he is so you are not having him house a pick 6 on you as well. Now, the second player that the Gophers need to slow down in this matchup is Justin Martin. I think Justin Martin is going to be the starting quarterback for your UCLA Bruins. He was the new quarterback last week, and I think he played well enough to keep the job. He had 68.6 completion percentage on 35 attempts in his first ever start, and it was against a Penn State team that I believe is ranked like top 5 in the country right now. Their defense is very good. Their defense has been very good. Their defense is great about getting pressures. He only got sacked twice in that game. He had 0 turnovers in the game, and his predecessor before him, Ethan Garbers, in those first few games had 6 interceptions. So I think as long as Martin's to take care of the ball, he will be the guy to take the quarterback job. Now, this is a guy who was an elite. I believe he was rated the 17th quarterback on 247. He put up 13 touchdowns in a single game, led his team to a 106-0 effort, and he has the talent. He's 6'4", he's 220 pounds. His favorite quarterback is Josh Allen. So overall, I've been saying this guy is a lot better than Ethan Garbers. We just saw a little bit of a brevity of his talent versus Penn State, and hopefully the Gophers aren't the one to catch the bad end of his rise in this UCLA program. So hopefully the Gophers can continue to dominate in the pass game, change the picture up on him, give him pressure, and force him into some timely interceptions in this game. But Justin Martin's a player you have to slow down. And then finally, the third and final player is Carson Schweisinger. He's a linebacker for this team. He is the leading tackler on this team, 49 tackles. He's been a key player in stopping the run. He is credited with 14 defensive stops so far this season, and he also has a forced fumble on the season, so he can lay the big hits. But he has been very productive against Penn State, against Oregon, against LSU. He had double-digit tackles against every single one of those teams, who has had a very good defense on the year. So offense on the year. So Carson Schweisinger is a guy that you want to be on the lookout for, and you want to slow him down, get him out of the picture, maybe attack him in coverage, but he's going to be a guy who can slow down your run game. So overall, you want to slow down Carson Schweisinger, Justin Martin, the quarterback, and Brian and Addison, the cornerback for your UCLA Bruins. Now, to wrap up today's show, we are going to talk about our biggest concerns for this game. And it's not the typical concerns. In fact, these are concerns that are more Gophers related, and we'll dive into that coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Gametime, because Gametime is the place to be when it comes to getting tickets, and they have the last minute tickets, best deals out there. And Gametime also has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier, because it filters out the fluff and it makes it so only the incredible deals get to your screen. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different ticketing offers. Now, on top of that, you've got the great features of Gametime, including the all-in pricing. If you go and you toggle it, now I can't stress this enough, you gotta toggle the all-in feature, then you will get your prices up front. You don't have to worry about surprise fees at checkout, and that is by far my favorite thing, so I know what I'm getting into from jump. Now, on top of that, they have the Gametime Picks, which is that curation to make it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. And that's it. You don't have to just get sport tickets here. You can get your live theater, you can get your comedy and what have you all over on Gametime. And the reason you should do that is because they have one of the most flexible customer service policies in the ticketing industry and the lowest price guarantee. If you find tickets that are the same value and they're lower elsewhere, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So definitely give Gametime a try, and you can look at their panoramic view of your seats before you even buy them. It's definitely the place to be. So definitely give Gametime a try. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, Gophers fans, we are wrapping this one up, talking about my three biggest concerns for this Week 7 game on the road in LA versus the UCLA Bruins at Rose Bowl Stadium. Now, my first concern, plain and simple, is distractions and overlooking this game. There's a lot going into this matchup. It's your first Cali road trip in the new Big Ten expanded groupings. On top of that, you have this major hype after a big win of beating the other California team that was ranked. And on top of that, you have your bye week looming after this game. So overall, you really hope that Minnesota keeps their eyes on the prize and that they are ready to go for this matchup. You don't want to be lagging. You don't want to be rusty. You don't want to be assuming that this is a team that's 1-4 and that you can get an easy dub against. You You need to bring your best. You need to play for real. Otherwise, you catch yourself losing a game that you absolutely have no business losing. And if the Gophers want to make a bowl game, this is a game they have to take. So Minnesota has to be playing their best. They cannot get caught up in distractions, cannot be overlooking this game. And that is my number one concern for Minnesota heading into this week. Now, my number two concern is health. My number two concern is health because Maverick Baranowski was out last game. Jalen Logan Redding and Devin Eastern, our starting interior defenders, were dinged up in this last game. We had Anthony Smith, an edge rusher, playing inside at the 3-tech, and that is not his natural position, but he was coming in there because we needed talented bodies. And so hopefully Jalen Logan Redding, Devin Eastern, both of those guys are able to play in this next game. Maverick Baranowski, hopefully he can be back. He was our leading tackler heading into last week's matchup. On top of that, Justin Wally just got back from injury, so we haven't seen much of Jack Henderson. I don't know if that's injury related. I don't know if there's something else going on there, but overall, there's a lot of key players that have had some ailments or that have had some lowered snaps and what have you. And you hope that this injury bug can slow down and Minnesota can make it to the bye week to get even healthier before the back stretch of games this season. So health is a main concern for me in this UCLA matchup. And then the third and final concern for me this week is this being the UCLA breakout game. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there is a point in time in every season where teams are going down the wrong path, where they're losing a lot of games. And there's a certain point in the season where with the adversity, you either struggle and continue to fall apart or you rally together. Now, we saw this firsthand last season with Northwestern, who was kind of all over the place. People had them as a one-win team heading into the season. And they came back from 3 scores in the fourth quarter against the Gophers. They won the game in overtime and they went on to become a bowl team. They rallied after that Gophers win and they really rallied together around their coach and what have you. Do not allow this UCLA team to do that same thing here against the Gophers. Do not allow this team any life in their home stadium. Do not give them the extra things that fire up a team and give them hope. Do not turn the ball over. Do not have explosives let go on you. Do not give them hope. You have to put your foot on the gas and do not let up. Put your foot on their throats. Keep scoring as much as you can. I don't care if you need to win this game 42-14. Go all out every down and enjoy the rest of a full week off after this road trip. That's going to be key. So the Gophers have to lay it down on the line, play all out, and do not allow UCLA to feel any momentum that they can get back into this thing, get back into this season after playing some ranked teams. That could be the belief. Look, we can beat this team. They're not a ranked team. We've only lost to ranked teams. I can see the reasoning now. Don't allow them to feel that hope. Don't give up explosives. Don't allow turnovers. You have to take it over. You have to suck away their hope, put them in the dirt, and hopefully you can walk away with a dominant win. That's going to do it for us here at Locked On Golden Gophers. I will see you tomorrow where we will likely dive in with either prediction show with Tristyn or we'll dive in a little bit further on key Gophers we need to step up. But until then, I'll see you next time. Roll the boat, Sky, you might go Gophers as always. And please don't forget to hit subscribe.